Hello, sports fans. Is the dynasty over for Alabama? Is the dynasty over? Well, some would think it is, but we're here to talk about it tonight. And I brought in my special crew. So we wanted to let all the smoke clear. Everybody talking about what happened in the national championship game. We wanted everybody to do their part so we could have your undivided attention right here on Coach One Sports with yours truly, Bull Jones. That would be me, but I got my crew with me, and we're going to break it down from the analytical to the fan side as well as the coach side. All those. We're going to hit them right now. So fasten your seatbelts because the real folks that know what happened in the Natty game will be able to tell you that tonight. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to my crew to make sure that they introduce themselves. Once again, it's Coach One Sports. Please hit that little button down at the bottom, subscribe, because I'm just taking off on my podcast channel. But I have my brothers here with me to show me some love and some support. So let's turn it. Let's go with you first. AP, go ahead and go ahead and introduce yourself. Come on in.
Yeah, Aaron Parks, Enough Said Sports. We do sports betting. We don't do fandom. We do business, and we don't make friends. We make money. If you like to make money while you watch these games, check me out, YouTube, Enough Said Sports.
All right, there he is, AP in the house. I know there are plenty, but this is my AP. How about that? How about that? All right, okay, so next, down in the corner there, my brother from another mother. Okay, I call him Big JL, but I'm going to go ahead and let him introduce himself so we can rock and roll tonight.
Jonathan Lewis, you can check me out at YouTube, CFB with John or College Football with John. Pretty much talk about all college football.
Everybody that watches him says, man, that's the man with the hat on. That's the man with the hat on. All my coaching buddies say, that's the man with the hat on. Hey, coach, that's the man with the hat on. And the mic. All right. So with that being said, I got to pass it on to bring it up on the third and inches. We got to go get that first down. So I got my former colleague coaching together. I'm gonna let him introduce himself and where he's from.
Joel Williams down here in Miami, Florida. Currently coaching at Monsignor Pace High School with the one and only Coach Anthony Walker.
Awesome. We're glad that you all are here tonight. So what we wanted to do tonight, everybody wanted to talk about the game. Is the dynasty over? And I'm going to just keep it real because I got a lot of former coworkers, colleagues, and current coaches right here in Georgia because, folks, I'm in the ATL, and they've been tearing me up about this game. They've been tearing me up about go dogs, go dogs, go dogs. Now, listen, I was a little bigger before. I was a little heavier before the national championship game, and they tore some weight off me. I'm not going to lie. And with that being said, yes, I did pick Bama to win the game, and it didn't happen. But guess what? Let me start off the show, because we're going to delve into is the dynasty over. But before that, let me go ahead and say congratulations to the Georgia Bulldogs because the coaching part of me, sports fans, I got some friends that on that coaching staff. I got guys, I got former players. I got a history and a lineage of people that I know. And you all know for me, it's all about coach one, teach one. And so there's some wonderful men that were part of that staff. And yes, I did want Bama to win, but I have to give hats off to the Georgia Bulldogs. After 40-something years, they did it. And no excuses. I wanted to throw some excuses out. The fan part of me will throw an excuse out, but the coaching part of me can't throw an excuse out. So I salute them. So I literally had to go call some of those same folks that I was tearing up the whole season. And I had to go ahead and tell them, hey, the better team won because of their ability to do some things in preparing for sudden change in a game. And they rose to the occasion. And hats off to Coach Smart. I thought I saw some things in his coaching ambiance and personality on the sidelines that help. I think he's listening to my show because there's some things I talked about him being so hot-headed and so 0 to 8,000. And there were some moments when he usually does that. He didn't do that in that perspective night. So I want to say thank you for a great game. I thought it was an awesome defensive game. First half, it was 13-12, going into the fourth quarter. So I thought it was a great game, me being a defensive guy, but I have to say, congratulations, job well done. That's what it's all about. Those players all bought in, and hey, somebody's gonna get us here at Bama, but guess what? They got us, but we'll be back. But I have to say, those guys up in Athens did a great job. And my hat's off to them. So no shame in the game. I give credit where it's due. Now, with that being said, I'm going to turn it over to my brothers. Now, I don't know what they're going to say, but I know what I said. So I'm going to start off with Aaron Park, and then we're going to go down to Jonathan, then Joel. Let me hear. Is the dynasty over?
Well, first of all, the dynasty is not over. That's 100%, definitely not. So if you're hearing reports of that, those are being highly exaggerated. However, I will piggyback off what you said and congratulate the Georgia Bulldogs and say they did a tremendous job. I know you're not going to make excuses. I'm not going to make excuses, but I am going to tell the truth because that's what I do. Injuries in this game. That last injury to Williams was the difference. And had that not happened, I don't know if Georgia wins the game. I'm going to say they probably wouldn't have, but who am I? But I hats off to him. I was happy for Coach Smart. I was happy for Bennett. He did a nice job in this game. He rose to the occasion. Finally, thank goodness, man. And I hope that helps this young man possibly even play in the National Football League one day. And I really like what I see from this team. That Georgia team is tremendous. They proved it, and they did a great job. But I also will add one more thing before I turn it over to Jonathan, and that is I thought Bill O'Brien kind of outsmarted himself in this game a little bit. I thought he went away from some of the things that were very, very successful in the first game, using more of those five, taking the tight ends and bumping them out to wide receiver and using some of those 5 wide sets to get the linebackers out of the box. I thought Alabama went away from that. And I thought that was a huge factor in this game because that allowed Georgia to run some of those complex blitz packages that they do with those tremendous linebackers that they have. And that's what allowed them to get the pressure in the first game they weren't able to get. And I think some of the reason why Bill O'Brien went away from that is because of some of the injuries. Obviously, they had Mechie in that first game, and they didn't obviously have him in this game. So that's my thoughts on that.
Interesting point of view. Real good stuff. Okay, Jonathan, let's go with it, brother.
All right, so I got a couple of things to say. First of all, Aaron, I'm disappointed in you a little bit.
What?
Bring out the Jamison Williams injury is not needed. Georgia was going to win this game if Jamison Williams was healthy, John Mechie was healthy. It didn't matter. You know why? Because at the end of the day, Georgia was a more physical team, and they wanted to win the game more than Alabama. That's all there is to it. I'm going to say it like it is, even as an Alabama fan. When you look at it, Georgia finally played Georgia football in that ball game like they did not do in the SEC championship game. They weren't lining up with 3 tight ends like they've done all year in the SEC championship game, but did do it in the national championship game. They weren't spreading the ball out as much in the SEC championship game. What were they doing? They were concentrating on Bowers, worrying about Bowers. That wasn't the case in the national championship game. When you look at it, they were blitzing. They weren't just blitzing down the middle. They were blitzing off the edges. They were bringing the corner every now and then. You would see a little bit of a mix-up. But to me, the most important change was they simplified the back end of the defense with the safeties. You saw it. They didn't try to get too fancy with it, in my opinion, and that's what it came down to. Now, with that being said, yes, Jamison Williams got hurt. That probably affected the game a little bit. But at the end of the day, when I look at it, it wasn't going to change anything. And another thing that needs to be pointed out that isn't being pointed out enough, Jaleel Billingsley his lack of effort in this game had me completely pissed off. When you watched him unblocking defensive backs when they were running to his side was just completely demoralizing. And then you wonder why he left. But we're going to get into that later on, right? So either way, so lack of effort. They were more physical. They blitzed and they played Georgia football and they beat Alabama. And if they would have played that way in the SEC championship game, they probably would have won that game too. So that's all I got to say about it.
Wow, there goes. Okay, the jab came from Aaron. Okay, the jab, the measuring jab came from Aaron. The punch, the overhead, the left jab came just now from Aaron. Then the big bolo punch just came from Jonathan. So I can't wait to, Joel, I can't wait to see what's going to come out your mouth.
All I want to say is, number one, how about them dogs? And number two, simply put, Aaron teetered on it a little bit. Bill O'Brien grew a new brain. Yeah. He grew a new brain for that game. Wow. I mean, why did you go away from what was successful in the SEC championship game? They went away from tempo. They let Jordan Davis be Jordan Davis. And they knew they couldn't block that guy. And they knew they had issues on the offensive line. And at the end of the day, they just didn't want the game as much as Georgia wanted the game. I don't give a hootenanny if Williams was playing the whole game, even if Michi was there. Georgia was just destined to be the champion that day. They were just destined to be the champion, and that's all to it. I mean, Alabama came in with a healthy backfield. They had all the – I mean, and even when Williams was down, let me tell you something else. If nothing else, what Nick Saban should have learned in that game, hey, man, at least get those guys getting some reps in practice, those other receivers, because when Williams went down, you could tell these guys had no kind of relationship, none whatsoever. And it was almost like he's throwing the ball to these guys for the very first time. The very first time. So that being said, I mean, the dynasty, I don't think it's over, no. I mean, but at the end of the day, it woke them up. At least it woke them up. And I'm glad it was Kirby Smart to do it. And yeah, he didn't get his animated, and he probably does listen to the show. He didn't get his animated. He didn't take his hat off. He didn't go nuts on Stetson.
What about the guy that got to pull him by his back of his belt, behind his behind? What about that guy?
That guy, but that's the get back coach. That's that guy. But he did. And if you notice, Stetson had one of those moments in time where he got kind of lost with where the play clock was in the whole 9 yards, and had to call a timeout. He didn't blow a gasket. He was pretty cool with that. He didn't say anything out of the way. He let Stetson just go through the process. But at the end of the day, the dynasty isn't over. But at the end of the day, it's been woken up, and now it gives kids, hey, another option in the process. Give them another option in the process because hey, they can be beat. They can be beat. Okay, so maybe everybody going to Georgia, maybe everybody going to Missouri. I don't know. But I'm saying now it just let them know when you cut them, they bleed too.
Yeah. Listen, but guys, it's the same thing like LSU 2 years ago. They're walking around and everybody is saying this is the next great dynasty. They talk about DBU at LSU. Now it's receiver U, all this stuff. And then they had all these guys going to draft. And Joe Burrow smoking a cigar at the national championship. Ed Orgeron, talking great.
Oh my gosh!
So listen. At the end of the day, when the smoke clears, yes, I was at the game when they beat us. They beat us down in Tuscaloosa. LSU did, and everybody going crazy. So now they turn around, win the national dream season, 15-0. Now all of a sudden, we're thinking, they're gonna be the big dogs on the block. Everybody, Rick Gilbert, everybody's going to LSU, and all of a sudden, all hell breaks loose down there. So guess who becomes that constant force, that tide rolling back in? Oh my gosh, here we go, Alabama, and they turn around and they beat the crap out of during the COVID year. They go 15-0. Coach gets COVID twice. Man, you're a bad mother sucker. You get it twice now. Goodness gracious. I mean, and he's Teflon Don. All the coaches get it. And I mean, it's just one of them things where they, Bama turns around, wins the national championship. So now, what are we gonna say about Georgia? Is it true? I want to hear from all three of you. Is it, I made a comment to one of my coworkers, and they tore me up. Guys, they were waiting on me. They tore me up, and I had to go ahead and take it because, all due respect, they won it fair and square. Yeah, injuries, but they won. But here, let me just tell you what I said to them. I said, of course, Nick Saban and Crimson Tide lost to a coach that came from the Nick Saban school of coaching. Let me leave this point with y'all. Kirby Smart has never been a head coach anywhere else, whether it be high school or college football, anywhere else, to his very first job. He came to Georgia. In 3 years, he got him to a national championship game where they lost. And the next year, they also went, really far. I mean, he did some things that I thought that people in Georgia didn't appreciate enough. And all they were crying about, no, we won that championship. We tired of losing. Yeah, well, okay. 40 years, that's 2 generations, according to my math. For them not having
four score.
Well, yeah, 4 score. So when it's all said and done, this man has never been a head coach anywhere else. And
what does that mean?
Well, I'm gonna tell you exactly what it means to be able to coach under those pressures. He's at one of the top 5 programs, top 3 in the nation. Okay, all right, that's what I'm trying to say. Nick Saban has been at Toledo. He's been at Michigan State. Then he got to LSU at age 52, won a national championship, went to the Dolphins, had to get out of there, got to Tuscaloosa. There is a seasoning that I thought that the Georgia fans did not embrace with Kirby, is what I'm trying to say, Joel. So you put all this pressure on this man to win a national championship. I thought it was unfair because I thought that I had some coworkers and some other coaching colleagues that were going to slit their wrists if Georgia hadn't won. And I really thought they would because they had enough, between them and the Dallas Cowboy fans. We'll talk about another show. They really want to slit their wrists down here. So I think that people don't appreciate what Kirby has put together in a short amount of time is where I'm going with it. Okay. Because he didn't have the trial and error of, I messed up on this head coaching job. So let me see if I can get it right on the next head coaching job. He didn't get none of that. So you all tell me your thoughts. Last thing I told my coworkers, where you will see Georgia and Bama play again for the next couple of years. If not in the football playoff semifinal, then definitely in the national championship game. Tell me your thoughts. Start with you first, Jonathan, then you, Joel, then you, AP.
Well, here's what I can tell you. I don't think Georgia's going anywhere, but it's going to be interesting to see Georgia without Dan Lanning and them playing Oregon at the very beginning of next year. It's going to be a good measuring stick, if you ask me, on where Georgia's going to be. What you said is what I've been preaching. I hate to say that to Georgia fans for the past 2-3 years. I'm like, this guy's never been a head coach. You got to give him a little bit of time. That's what made Clemson so good with Dabo Swinney. He came in and they let him have the 1 or 2 bad seasons. They rode through the 8-4 seasons. And they rode through with just winning a couple of conference championships, but not reaching the big game, and then eventually got there. And you know what I mean? He won the big one. My big fear for Georgia was them trying to terminate Kirby too early. Like you said, even if he didn't win it this year, these Georgia fans were pretty much saying what you said. If he does not win this one, we're never going to win one with Kirby Smart. And I'm like, man, you guys are putting a lot on this dude, real quick. And I get it. You're at a premier program. You have top 3, top 5 recruiting classes every year. Right. You have Will Muschamp there as basically a defensive coordinator. Right. Yeah, I know he's an analyst, but let's be real. You have Dan Lanning there. You have Kirby Smart there. You have everything in place. You bring in your guy after firing the first guy. You know what I mean? Todd Monken, right, on the offensive side. So everything should be in place to win it, and he wins it. And I think, if anything, it's more of a relief for Georgia fans than anything. You know what I mean? It's okay, he's won it. We can reassure ourselves that he can do it. But it's going to be interesting to see how things pan out when Georgia starts losing the staff at the rate everybody else does, like Alabama. Now look at Clemson and Oklahoma and these other programs. So, yeah.
I agree. Well said. Okay, Joel, you go ahead, pass hands. I'll hand it off to you, and then we're going to get down to AP at the end.
Well, I mean, it's all the same. When Kirby first got that job, the only game that was on that calendar for him to win was Florida.
Correct.
And once they started mastering that game, then who's next? Gotcha. Now you've got this Alabama thing going on. How do we measure up to Alabama? It wasn't about like he said, they had top three recruiting classes. It wasn't about the kids. It was about the X's and O's, the coaches, the bravado. Do kids believe in what I'm saying, the whole 9 yards? So you get that going on. Once you got the kids sold on what you're selling, the rest is easy. You just got to go out there and put it on the field. The rest is easy. But you mentioned Dabo Swinney. When Dabo first got that job, the only game he was expected to win every year was South Carolina.
Yeah.
You got to beat South Carolina. That's it. So once Georgia mastered, I think they got the ups on Florida for a couple of years now. So now it's like, who's next? Next man up. And right now they are the king of the SEC East. Who's out there? Nobody. We thought Kentucky was giving us a push. Stoops was doing some good things, but at the end of the day, it's still Kentucky. And I'm still not understanding why Vanderbilt is still in the SEC. I don't understand.
Baseball team, national champions or top perennial top.
But I'm just saying, when you start talking about perennial teams, Georgia is now, they are the king of the SEC East or the SEC altogether, because now you can't schedule Georgia for a homecoming game if you're Florida. You can't schedule Georgia for your season opener if you're freaking Kentucky. You can't do that because it's going to be demolishing. It's going to be deplorable. So at the end of the day, I think Kirby, he's maturating at the right time. I mean, it's a process, and I respect it. I respect the process, but I do think Alabama really does have to consider that, hey, there's a bully down the street too that just moved down the street from me, and I got to pay attention to him.
Yep. Well said. I like that. All right, AP, what do you think about it? Will they be seeing each other again?
Yeah, I think they'll see each other again. It's going to be really interesting to see if Kirby Smart will be able to do the same sort of things that Nick Saban has done over the past several years, being able to replace multiple coaches in a season, being able to deal with that kind of turnover going forth in their program. I don't think that Georgia is as stable as that Alabama program is as far as reloading the way that Alabama does on a regular basis. I do think that they are an excellent football team, and I think that they're returning enough guys to where they're going to be very, very good again. I don't think you're going to see a LSU type fall from this Georgia Bulldogs team. Nothing like that. So I think they're going to be here. I think they're going to be here for a while, but I do think that next year is going to be very critical for Kirby Smart and this Georgia Bulldogs program to be able to try to move on from some of these great coaches that they've had on staff for all these many years. So it's going to be really important for them and their program health for them to have another good season to kind of start trying to get that same sort of pipeline that Alabama has established over these many years as well. So I think they're going to be there. I like this Georgia Bulldogs team, and I look forward to seeing Georgia and Alabama do it again next year.
Wow. Okay. Well, that was, I tell you what, that was so, I'm going to take the gloves off for a minute because I want to talk about what was the moment in the game, that defining moment in the game. And I really thought there were two, but the one that stands out to me the most was there's a groove as a defensive coordinator when you're watching, everybody's locked in, and when you can find out when somebody's not really locked in and you got to help them refocus, there needs to be a dog.
Can I say it before you say it?
No, I'm going to say it. It's my show.
Go ahead, say it. I know. That's what I was going to say. Go ahead.
Listen, on the play where the tight end caught that pass, was in the end zone and almost caught that pass, and it was just disrupted. I think he just dropped it. That's what it looked like. I think it was Latu. He dropped that pass. Nakobe Dean turned around. I think he was talking to Swindle, the other kid, and you know, I'm not gonna say the words that he said, but I know what words he said. He told him, "Mother sucker, this is, hey man, get your mind right, do your job, do your assignment. You just blew it. Refocus before I go upside your head." Okay, now that's what he said in a clean way. But you know, for the podcast, but you know, there was a point where that kid, you had an alpha male dog, literally tell him, "Hey man, you just got off track with what we focused on ever since Bama kicked our face in, a couple of weeks ago. So I'm going to help you real quickly, get you back in focus, and you do your job, but you better turn up your next play or I'm going to knock you off the field. That's pretty much what he said. And what happened the next play?
Woo!
He turned around and made a play on Bryce Young that it was a hit for loss sack. Guys, that was the most. Before that, I thought it was another play on offense. I'm sure one of y'all going to say it. But that to me, from a defensive guy, when Kobe Dean said, hey, I mean, he almost grabbed him and shook him. And as a defensive coordinator, you love that because we can't go on the field, right, Joel? We can't go on the
That's
field.
right.
All we can do is catch the kid off the field. But he didn't need that because he took care of it. Go ahead.
To piggyback with you, I think what happened was when Kobe Dean was locked in on the guy, and the guy did a crossing route in front of the mic, and the mic didn't check him. He was like within 3 to 4 yards. He didn't knock him out. And then they bumped in, and that's when he bumped into the mic back there, and he was like, "Hold it! Why am I tracking this kid? And you ain't putting no hands on him." And whatever the message was, and I like your message, but whatever the message was, it got through and it registered. Because like you say, next play, come on, baby. And did you see how he closed in on Bryce Young? Yeah. When he saw it, he recognized he got out the tackle box. He closed in on him like a shark to a fish.
Hey, that's the stuff that To'o was supposed to do this whole season. And Jonathan, you heard me complaining about his tackle radius and not taking leadership. And I thought he was intimidated by all those other great players. So Will Anderson took it upon himself the whole season to be that alpha male dog. And we're going to see that next season. But I just think it's a great point for, both of us thinking the same thing, Joel, because that's what happened. Because when that kid comes across that middle, somebody's supposed to touch his soul and redirect him off that route.
You're supposed to have a collision.
Yeah, amen. See, he's supposed to touch him before the ball get in the air, and that way it's no pass interference.
That's right.
But yeah, let's move on to you, AP, and then you finish up, Jonathan. What was a defining moment for you all in the game?
It was I wish I could remember the kid's name. Jonathan, what's number 84's last name?
I already knew you were going to bring that up. You talking about for Alabama?
Yeah, what's his name?
Agiya Hall.
Hall. Okay.
When Hall dropped that pass,
I knew you were going to say that
on the 5-yard line. That would have been 6
in his hands.
That was it. I knew then. Yep. I knew then it was over, because I believe if he catches that pass, we may be having a different conversation. Seriously.
But AP, I'm gonna tell you like this, like one of these funny guys says on his little show, the moment just was too big for him, and he pinched down his leg.
That's what he did. That's what
30.
he did.
Coach 30 says that.
Man,
I love that.
Listen,
the moment
man,
was too big for him.
You gotta catch that football.
So he's Davis.
You can't go to University of Alabama and play football at the University of Alabama and you can't catch that football. Like, you have to catch that football. I mean,
it made them guys look like I'm telling you, when Williams went down, those guys were never prepared for the moment. They never played for the moment like that. So you got what you expected. That was gonna happen.
I understand that. I just was really disappointed at that. I really thought that, considering that Mechie had gone down, we all knew he wasn't going to play. Williams is your alpha back there. Man, you had a month to prepare for this freaking game. You just can't do that. You just can't do that.
How many reps do you think he got in practice, though?
That's my point.
Almost none.
That's my point. And that's criticism on Coach Saban, criticism on Bill O'Brien. Because you cannot have your guys. There's no excuse, man. You got a month. Those guys they should have been getting more reps than Williams got.
All right.
Wow. Okay, Jonathan, let's go.
Who is the one guy complaining all season about not getting reps? It was Agiya Hall. He was the guy that got put in the doghouse for saying, I'm not getting reps when I'm being told I should be on the field. And you're talking about underperforming. But anyways, moving on. So my defining moment is honestly this. It's a Stetson Bennett throw when he threw the touchdown to that kid in the back, towards the back of the end zone in the bucket. Mitchell. That was it. When I saw that, I'm like, oh, this is it. Like this is just when Stetson is throwing that accurate and they're coming up with catches like that, I'm like, sorry, you got to give it to the guys at that point. It's just their day. They're the better team today, and that's all there is to it. You had kids complaining all year at Alabama. The big ones was Javon Baker. Another one was Hall saying, I'm not getting reps. Well, I'm not getting reps. Well, I'm not getting on the field, blah, blah, blah. You get on the field, and, well, Hall had at least 3 drops that I can remember.
Yeah, major drops. Major.
So, in his hands, like, I was like, okay, you asked for all these reps, bro. And then now we see why you weren't on the field. I mean, clearly Coach knows what he's talking about. One of them up there does. Because I was one of those people saying, I keep hearing his name. I want to see what the kid does. And then he gets on the field. I'm like, you know what? Maybe I should keep my mouth shut a little bit.
Well, let's not take it easy. Brooks didn't give them no offense either.
No, he didn't. No.
None of them did.
I was going to say this too, guys. How you go to Alabama and run a 4.48 40 playing receiver? Because a John Hall can't run. I can outrun him right now.
Okay, right, and another thing that made me mad in this game, do you remember the catch by Cameron Latou when he's running down the sideline? He slowed down.
Could have scored.
He slowed down. When he slowed down, I'm like, what are you doing, bro? He didn't see the guy behind and tracking him down. I'm like, really? Like 60 yards. This was an easy touchdown. It should have been. And you let a guy track you down that quick because you slowed down. That rant. I can only imagine the speech Nick Saban gave him.
Well, you looking at that, Jonathan, the play I'm talking about too. Y'all remember that it was a 3rd and 5. I think Bryce was under pressure. He barely gets the ball off. Hall makes a nice move. Kids trailing him. He makes a nice move, gets out in the open field. And I'm thinking, good night. And a linebacker ran this dude down.
Yeah.
From like 6 yards behind him, tracked him right down. I'm like, dude, can you run? What did he run?
Hey, Bull Jones, who is the JUCO transfer that started at DB?
Jackson. Kyrie
Jackson.
Yeah.
Kyrie Jackson said, and I quote, I just got him. I'm a transfer from JUCO. I mean, I'm still learning. Because he's the one that they were picking on all night. He's the one that Mitchell bombed in the end zone.
Yep.
Well, that's because, the injuries – when Amore Davis could not go in anymore, he shouldn't have tried to play. But adrenaline flowing, natty game. Kids want to try. But I'm
telling you, if Nick Saban learned anything, you gotta get some quality reps on these backup kids that in practice because you never know.
Gotta split the reps, man.
So here's where I put the shovel in the ground on this subject. It goes back from what I'm hearing from all of you all is as far as preparing for the moment, and it talks about getting the reps. And see, the problem we talked about, Jonathan, you so eloquently talked about it in the beginning of the season with Jaleel Billingsley as well as with Hall. These kids wanting these in their feelings, which we've never heard of it like that at Alabama. And now all of a sudden they're in their feelings. But guess what? Yep. That little elephant in the room is that NIL. And that NIL is the poison at the end of the day when they sign these doggone NILs. And if they do it for so-and-so Burger University commercial, and they say every time you get a touchdown, you say our name on you talk about us on Twitter, we're going to give you X amount of dollars. Well, if you don't score a touchdown, if you don't get 5 catches, how are you going to say it on Twitter to pub whoever the NIL agreement you have? And now you're in your feelings because now they're not going to pay you. Because now it's paid on performance according to what they draw up. Remember, there's no guidelines on this yet. So now everybody's in their feelings. And I said that in the beginning about Spencer Rattler, but that's a whole nother show. But when it's all said and done, that's what happened. And yes, salute Georgia. You guys did it. Can't take it from you. The coach in me respects how you did it. I think we can all agree here on this show that all of us respects the tenacity, the focus that the Bulldogs had to win the Natty. And now, Georgia fans, can y'all please get off of Kirby Smart? Now, I will be saying that. Y'all leave him alone, okay? So if he goes 10-2 next year, don't start whining because you just won a Natty.